All right. For this episode of the Courage Coaching and Counseling Podcast, my guest today is Cheryl Baker. She is on staff with Imago Dei Community, and she is one of the directors of the Refuge ministry at Imago Dei. Thank you for being on the show today, Cheryl.
Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate this.
The uh, I'm excited to learn more about the Refuge ministry. It provides a lot of support for many different topics. I often refer clients to that ministry. But before we do that, could you give us a little bit about your background?
Sure, I'd love to. I love letting people know that I was born and raised in New Jersey. So I am a Jersey girl.
Hmm.
And then we came to Portland when I was 14 years old. And I went to the best high school in Portland, which is none other than Thomas Jefferson. So I'm a demo. I graduated there and then left Portland and went to Dallas, Texas, and um, hung out there. And then I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, and I stayed there for about 20 something years. My husband and I came back to Portland 7 years ago.
Oh,
So I am here in Portland 7 years strong. And although I was here as a teenager, a lot of things have changed and my
oh yeah.
memory. Yeah, I'm just like, I don't remember that. Oh, this is so beautiful. This is probably one of the most beautiful places I've ever lived. The
Mm,
scenery, the coastline. It's just a beautiful, beautiful place to live. So
yeah.
I'm really, really glad that we came back. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it as much, but I have. And so
Mm.
we're here.
I
Yeah.
I grew up on the East Coast in upstate New York in Syracuse,
Okay. Okay.
but I do agree. Like Oregon, Portland is a beautiful place to live.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Physically beautiful. Recently, it seems like it's hurting. Um, uh, and uh,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm glad uh, for the Refuge ministry. Um,
Yes.
what brought you back to Portland?
Family. One of my sisters adopted two boys, and she was asking for support. And we were like, of course, we're going to support you. And the more and more we looked at it, we just thought, what would it look like to really come here and physically be here, helping her raise those boys, and then just being here for maybe 10 years or so. That's what we said, 10 years or so. So that's what initially brought us here. And my mom is here and I have two other sisters. So I have two sisters who live here. One lives in New York. My mom is here, and I have a brother in Dallas.
Mm,
And then most of Kevin's people are East Coast.
ah,
So yeah,
yeah.
so my family brought us here,
Mhm.
and Kevin loves it. He's yeah, he loves it. I'm always thinking, okay, 10 years. Let's see what's next. And
Mhm.
but he's really adapted to I would say the weather has been good for us. Although people talk about the rain, I don't know. It just hasn't. Maybe the rain has not been as consistent as it used to be years ago. I keep hearing that,
Mm,
but there are a lot of sunny days here. So
mm, mhm.
Georgia is hot all the time.
Yes. So to cool off, it hasn't been negative for you.
Yeah, not at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah, not at all.
So uh, the you left to uh, Portland to go to Dallas and Atlanta. Um,
Yeah.
can you tell me a little bit about uh, how those places like shaped you
Yes,
and developed you?
absolutely. Yeah. So when I went to Dallas, it was just it wasn't really thought out, 18 years old,
Mm,
graduating from high school. It was, I want to leave here. I don't like here. I
mm,
don't have anybody in Jersey to kind of go back to. However, I have a brother and his wife, and they started a family in Dallas. So let me go there. And he welcomed me. And I, when I talk about Dallas, I was telling someone, you talking about hot. It's so hot there.
mm.
I remember waking up and thinking, okay, really? Why is it already 90 degrees,
Uh-huh.
at
Yeah.
8:30 in the morning? It just didn't make sense to me. And I thought about, yeah, I definitely don't want to go to hell because this is so hot. It it was unbearable some days. I mean,
Mm,
they
mhm.
stay in the hundreds, often,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was just so unusual for me.
Yeah.
However,
If my sister listens to this podcast, she's gonna relate to that. She moved to Arizona,
oh
um, and it's too hot for her.
yeah, yeah, it was really really hot. However, in Dallas is where I just kind of figured out who God was to me in
Mm,
a real way. So I joined a church. This is my first time joining a church on my own. No one's telling me, hey, this is a church you need to go to. I found a church. My brother and his family, they were going to another church. And I just kind of wanted to do my own thing. So I was like, I'm going to go find my own church. So
mm,
I found my own church. I was active just like I was, as a kid, sung in the choir, hospitality, teaching. I just fell into a position of serving.
mm.
And that comes straight from my mother, serve, serve. Don't go too long without being in a church, is what she would say. You need a church membership.
Ah, mhm.
So
If
I
you're gonna go,
quickly,
you plug in
yeah,
and
I
serve.
plug in. Yeah,
Okay.
I plug in.
Mhm,
And that is what kept me because I also recognized, oh, the party scene. 18, 19, 20, I started realizing, oh, there is a really cool party scene that I want to take part in. And
mhm,
so then I started all of that. Um, However, I tell you, Savan, as much as I partied and hung out, it didn't matter. It was very rare that I missed church on Sunday. And
mm,
so I had that, I can't even say it was a love for God at that point. It really was just religious, right?
mm,
This is a religious act that I'm going to do. This is what I was taught, and
mm,
I'm going to continue to do this. However, that religious act and that discipline and that, oh, this is something I need later on taught me to lean into God in a way that I had to trust him with with all my being. And
mm,
so I don't
mhm.
fight the discipline piece. I know people, fight that and say, well, kids don't know.
Oh, that's like
Uh,
legalistic or
yeah, yeah. I,
mm,
I I think people say legalistic quite a bit, and I get it, right? I don't. Yeah, I agree with some of that, but I also know that for me,
mm,
when I was going like that, and I was pretty rigid about I got to be in church, the word was being spoken. So I was in a healthy environment. So I think that's the key, right?
mm,
I was in a healthy environment. So the word is being spoken. So I am hearing it, and conviction is coming. And so it was good for me. And I
mm,
continued that road quite a bit. But in Dallas is where I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to church, but then somewhere it just kind of switched to where I was like, oh, I know who God is for Cheryl. And that just kind of started to happen in Dallas. And I recognized that, oh, he can be this for me. He can be this for me. He's, you know, um,
mm,
I don't have a relationship with my father. I did not have a good relationship with my father, I should say.
mm,
And I realized now I get it when people say he can be your father. Because before I was just like, I don't even understand that. What are you saying to me? And
mm,
so that was that was eye-opening for me. And all of that kind of happened when I was like 18 to like 22-ish, 23, and
Mhm.
fell in love, and got hurt, and
Mm.
all of those things happened. Yeah, my first like true love and my first true hurt in
Heartbreak.
relationship. Oh,
Mm.
that heartbreak was hard,
Mm.
but all of that happened in that period of time. And so that was, I love Dallas. I love
Mm.
Dallas for all of those things. I mean, I think of my church, Mount Pisgah Baptist Church.
Mm.
And yeah, I loved it. I
That
really,
that
really loved it.
that's encouraging for, I think, maybe, I hope, for moms and dads,
Yeah,
that, like, you train your child to go to church on Sunday, even if you're up late on Saturday. It's just
yeah,
what you do.
yeah,
And then um it looks like you kind of had to leave home and be on your own to really make your faith your own,
yeah.
and for God to really become that heavenly Father to you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So that was a big thing for me in Dallas when I think about Dallas. The other big thing that happened to me in Dallas was that I really had a good job. I worked for the OHA, Office of Hearings and Appeals, all these acronyms for the government. But I started working there and I was like, wow, it wasn't corporate, but it was, I work for the federal government and I worked for an administrative law judge. I was his secretary and I just loved it. I got to dress up to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I had benefits that I didn't understand, what's a 401k. So at 19, 20 years old, I had a 401k, I had medical benefits that I hardly ever used, right? I used my dental, just my kind of regular preventive care. But yeah, life was good for me.
Mm.
Life was good for me in Dallas. Yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah. So, where and how did you meet your husband?
Kevin and I literally grew up together. Like,
Oh.
I know people say that, but we really did. Our families have known each other since we were kindergarten. Little people. He lived maybe, I don't know, 5 blocks from me, and so our families knew each other. We went to the same church. We did some of the same schools. We were boyfriend and girlfriend in the 7th grade. And his sister was my best friend. And back in the day, when I was coming up, you couldn't talk on the phone very much to your friends. And so we would write to each other. And I would write her letters all the time. And I would talk about Kevin. And I'd be like, your brother is so fine. He's so handsome.
Did he take you to any school dances in junior high?
So we did, I need to ask him. I don't have any memory of us doing a school dance, but
Mhm.
he was telling me stuff. He remembers things that I just do not remember.
Mm.
And I'm like, are you sure? And he's like, yes, I'm telling you, we did this. So that's a good question. I'll have to ask him. I don't have any memory of that though. What I
Mhm.
do have a memory of is we both played basketball. And in junior high, the girls always played before the boys. And so he was always on the sidelines cheering me on and watching me play. And,
Mhm.
and I'd always be like, oh, yeah, this is so cool. He's 1 year older than me. So I was like, I got this, 8th grader, watching me play. Oh, my goodness. And then, I would see him sing in the choir and, all those good things. So
Mm.
that is how Kevin and I met. And then many, many, many years later, he was coming to Georgia to take care of his parents. His father was ill. And I was like, oh, let me show you around. So I'm showing him around. I'm introducing him as my play brother. And he's looking at me like, I am not your play brother. And I'm like, yeah, you are. So, and so I just was clueless that he was like, no,
Mm.
we're going to rekindle this and you're going to be my wife. But
Yeah.
I really did not see that. I was so hungry for just a wholesome, good relationship. And he and I were such good friends. I just
Mm,
didn't want anything to mess that up. So I,
mm,
I just resisted any attraction, even though I was attracted to him. I was just like, nope, nope. This is
mm.
my
Don't want
friend.
to
This
mess
is
that up.
this is my play brother. And little
Mm,
did I recognize that friendship is invaluable in a marriage.
mm,
I've been married before and didn't have that friendship. And what a difference it has
mm.
made in our life
Wow.
today.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, uh, you stayed in touch, and but then when he went down to Georgia, you were able to spend more time together.
yeah,
So how long have you guys been married?
we've been married 12 years. Uh-oh. I believe it's 12. Yeah, I think it's 12.
I put you on the spot.
12 or
About 12
13.
years. Yeah.
Yeah, about 12
12,
years.
12, 13. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. The if you don't mind sharing, uh, w- it I mean that's a unique, like that's a special story that you guys have. Like just
Yeah.
growing up as children,
Yeah.
and then being able to to yeah, fall in love
Yeah.
and get married.
Yeah.
Um, what what's been hard about that? And like what lessons have you learned
Yeah.
with marriage?
A couple of things have been hard. One is Kevin and I both have had previous marriages. And we both came to each other as leaders in the church. And I don't
Mm,
think that either of us would, write that sign and tell people, hey, if I marry this person, it's going to be my third marriage
mm,
on both sides. And so we were just like,
mm,
yeah, I don't even know if I should be doing this again. And there
mm,
was just a lot of conversation about it. Um, we entered into marriage. I mean, when I say thoughtfully, it was a lot. I was like, God, now I need for you to probably knock me down and tell me that this is really going to be my husband because I
mm,
don't trust myself. Right? I've done this before, and I thought those times were the times. And then I recognized where I
mm,
failed in my past relationships, being honest
mm,
with that. It wasn't always the other person. I mean, there
mm,
was some betrayal and mistrust and abuse. However, on my end, I made marriage an idol. That's how I can say it.
mm,
And I definitely put it before God in everything. I loved being married to the degree that I just couldn't see other things. And so when he and I started even talking about it,
mm,
I was like, yeah, I don't know. But we were surrounded by good and wise people that
mm,
gave us not just good counsel, but really gave us godly counsel. And we realized, yeah, let's do this. And
mm,
so that was a challenge, just coming into it knowing you weren't the first nor the second. And
mm,
are we really going to make it? You know, but I can tell you, Savon, I love Kevin in a way that is so healthy. When I
mm,
think back to the way I used to love men, it
mm,
has been so healthy how I love him. And it is so healthy how he loves me that together we're really just, doing what we need to do for the kingdom. And it's been beautiful. It's really been
mm,
beautiful. Some tough things that have happened though. Kevin, about 5 years ago, got MS, multiple sclerosis,
mm,
and that is a neurological disease. And it has just debilitated him to the
mm,
degree where when we came to Portland 7 years ago,
mhm,
we were playing tennis 3 and 4 times a week. I mean, that's what
You
we
guys were
did.
athletes from when
Yes,
you were in junior high.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah, hanging
yeah.
out. And now, Kevin is in a wheelchair like 90% of the time. And so our life has drastically changed, and it has been incredibly hard at times. But then there's been times where there's been so much joy. Like, I
Mm,
almost can't believe it's my life. Like, I'm just like, God, what is
mm,
this? And I've
mm,
heard people say, oh, you can have joy and sorrow, and you just kind of balance it. And I was like, you know what? I know exactly what that feels like. One moment will be very joyful. Kevin has this incredible memory of how we lived when we were young.
mm,
I needed that because of the trauma that I've had as a child.
mm,
I actually have just, stuffed things away
mm,
and don't remember some things. As a matter of fact, I used to make up what my childhood was like. I would make up stories.
mm,
Like when I would hear other people tell stories, I'd be like, yeah, me and my friends, we had this party, and I was just making it up because I was jealous. And they would ask me questions I couldn't answer.
mm,
Well, what God has done, He's brought someone from my past right into my present, and
mm.
He's reminding me, hey, yeah, you did have trauma. You did have stuff. But I also remember these good things that happened.
In your childhood.
And
Yeah.
and and I was just like, this is so great. And
Mm,
it's such an interesting relationship, and just how God is just kind of put us together, because Kevin also suffered with post-traumatic amnesia 2 years ago. And so when that happened, I just was like, okay, you got to be kidding me, God. This is not happening.
yeah.
Are you kidding me? How does this even happen? And through all of that, I learned um, that there could be joy. And
Mm,
I tell you, I just didn't think it would be. I
mm,
just didn't think it would be. I was like, no, this is not going to happen.
yeah.
But yeah, there was joy. There is joy. And
Yeah.
so we have days where I'm just like grieving and falling on the ground, and I'm dramatic. So I'm crying, and
Mm,
and crying out to God.
mm,
And then there'll be times when something so very sweet will happen, or something that we'll do, and it'll just remind us, oh yeah, this is what love feels like. This is beautiful. And I
mm,
and I love all of it. I wouldn't um I'm not gonna say I would trade it, because I do want things to be different. I want him to be healed. If I had it my way, I would want him to be back out on the tennis court.
mm,
However,
mm.
I love being married to Kevin. I love being in this space. I've learned so, so, so much about God
Mm,
and how He can keep us. I feel like I'm using all the old terms that I used to hear my mom and my aunties and them say. And I remember my auntie and my grandmother, they would say stuff like, God's a keeper. And you'd be
mm,
like, what does that mean? God's a
mm.
keeper. What does that
Yeah.
mean? Well, what it means is, when you don't think you can get up off the floor, get out of the bed, open another door, uh, He will keep you.
Mm,
And He will keep you so much so that you will have peace in the middle of all the chaos. And you'll be people will be looking at you and, what's wrong with you? I mean, people will say to me, lots and lots, people who really know more details of Kevin and my story.
mhm.
Oh my goodness, how are you making it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, God is a keeper. He really is. Um, Are there things in place that we put in place for us? Yes, absolutely. At the end of the day, though, it's because God is a keeper, you know,
Mm,
and
yeah.
there is no one else that we can rely on.
Mm,
No one else. And I believe that thing. Yeah, I believe it with my whole heart. So
yeah.
yeah.
The when when you when you got married, um, it was not something that you expected or hoped for. Um, and it's just amazing, the memory that uh, your husband was able to remind you of memories that were stolen away from your trauma,
Yeah.
but then his memory has been taken away. So
Yeah.
now in as he's an adult, and um,
Hmm.
can you say a little bit more, Cheryl, about what's it, post traumatic amnesia? What is that like
Yeah.
for you guys day to day?
Yeah. Day to day. So 2 years ago, we renewed our vows and we had a ceremony at
Mhm.
church.
Like
And
you're around your
um,
10-year anniversary, maybe.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And he has no recollection of it whatsoever,
Oh.
like none. And so I'll show him pictures and he'll just be like, he'll ask, what was the day like, and what did we do? And it I used to just didn't want to talk about a lot of things. So it was just make me cry. And but then
Mm,
I thought about how beautiful, he's reminded me of things that I couldn't remember and what a gift it was. And so now I
mm,
get to just do just little small pieces of that for him.
mm,
And so, yeah, he doesn't remember. And people, um, so with COVID, it has really been a struggle because we're not in the same social circles. A
mm,
lot of things, it just was hard to keep up. And so now he's forgotten people that he was in relationship with. And that's hard and that's tough. And,
mm,
we've had scripts. We literally have scripts where when it first happened, we wrote a letter to the church and asked them to care for us in a certain way, kind of gave them some things to do.
mm,
And one of the things was don't try to make Kevin remember who you are. So you
mm.
come up to him
Oh,
and you're like, "Hey, Kevin." And you can tell when someone looks at you and they're like, "I don't know who
right.
you are." And you
Yeah.
just say, "Hey, Kevin, I'm Cheryl. We, did this together, or we
Yeah.
do this together." And then he'll be like, "Oh, okay." At the beginning, it was very tough, weird, strange. I was always by his side. I wanted to protect him. I didn't
Mm.
want people to say the wrong thing. I didn't want him to be
To be
re-traumatized. And
hurt. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
but then we just kind of found a rhythm,
Mm.
and he'd be like interviewing people. I remember hearing him ask somebody, "Why are we friends?" You know,
That's such a cool question.
what a cool question. How many
That
of
is
us
such a cool
ask that?
question. Yeah,
How
like
many of
why
us ask that? Yeah. I mean, he asked someone, "Why do we hang out? Why do we like each other? Can you tell me the last thing we did together that was fun?" And I
oh,
was just like,
mm,
"What?" And so he has this journal, he has this book, to jog his memory, to, write down what these people are saying. And he'll go back and look at his text threads and see, were you really important to me? Let me let me see what the
how
conversations
much
have
did
been.
you text me
Yeah.
before this? Oh, this is
It
it's like a movie, Cheryl,
this
what you
is
guys are going through.
so, yeah, 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 it is. And
Mm,
so we have all of those little things. And because of how God created Kevin, right, who he is, he's all about safety and security. His job before he became disabled was to do private security. So he's all about safety,
mm,
always.
mm,
And so before you would come visit him, you had to text him your picture so he could have a picture. And then at the door, you had to have your ID out so he could see your ID. I mean, he just came up with these strategies. No one helped us with that part. I mean, I
mm,
love the medical
mm,
team that we have now. I love them.
mm,
However, when this first started, it just was a lot of unknowns. And,
mm.
people were like, yeah, yeah, his memory may come back. I mean, we were told, yeah, if it didn't come back, I think he was in the hospital 3 weeks. And they were like, well, at short term, it's probably not going to come back. And I'm like, what? What do
Mm.
you mean it's not going to, and they were like, well, the true term is he's not going to have access to those memories. And I was just like, what? So
Mm.
yeah, we had come up with a lot of strategies and
Yeah.
plans, and yeah.
Did um he would remember when you guys were children. Did um how much did he lose of like memory with you and
So
your life together?
so he lost all of it. Yeah. I mean, he would remember up to like when we first started dating
Did
as
he
adults.
did he not remember moving to Portland?
No,
Oh my
no.
goodness.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
all of that.
that trauma and then his awareness, he's just like living in a place that he doesn't remember how he got there?
Yeah, and it was scary for me. I didn't
Wow.
want to leave the house. I didn't want to leave him. I mean, he literally would wake up. It was something about resetting. Like he would go to sleep, and then when he first woke up, that first hour was very difficult. It was really cloudy,
Mm.
and he would wake up. We had signs. I had written him notes in case I was in the bathroom or in another room when he woke up, so he could just see. And someone would say, like, "Good morning, Kevin. I'm your wife, Cheryl. You are safe." I always would tell him, "You are safe. You're loved. Um, call out to me when you wake up, so
You
I
would
can."
have to reassure him and do that,
Yeah,
like, daily.
yeah, daily. And that was for a while. That was for probably about, I don't know, maybe about 8 to 10 weeks. And then he just
Wow.
started building memories of who I am to him, right?
Wow.
In the
His
present,
brain was healing.
his brain was healing. So,
Wow.
yeah, yeah,
That must have been so hard.
it was hard. It was really hard. I think a lot of times I was on autopilot. So I have a chaplain background, youth pastor, and so I think I just went into those modes,
Mm.
of
Helping people through
caring.
crisis.
Yeah,
You just know
yeah,
you've been through stuff like that before.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but, like, you lost your husband or I mean, he's physically there, but, like,
He's physically there, but he
yeah.
didn't know who I was, and
Hmm.
it was difficult. I was very appreciative though that he knew who God was, because I just thought, what if we don't even believe the same? I'm like, my mind was going all the way to the left. I was like, what if we don't believe the same thing? What if you don't like me anymore? What if you don't, I just had all these what if?
Oh, right.
And yeah, yeah, it was something. I remember the first day that when he came home and that night, and I was thinking, what am I going to wear? What kind of pajamas am I going to wear? Like, how,
Mm.
like this is so, and so we just kind of, slept separate. And I mean, it was just weird.
You had to tell him that I'm your wife,
Yeah.
like, we're married.
Yeah.
He forgot that. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
It was something.
Mm.
It was really something. And yeah, I don't wish that on anyone.
Mm.
And all I can say, but God's grace and God keeping us, and
Mm.
my village. I just have a beautiful, oh my goodness, I have such a beautiful support system. It's just
Yeah,
been great. And
yeah.
one of the things, I've lived in a couple of cities and states. One of the things that I have done always, and I didn't know that this was going to help me, but I've always adopted people into my life. So at 18, I lived with my brother, but I didn't have any sisters. So I would find people like, oh, she looks like she'll be a good sister to me. And I just would, pull them
You're like
in.
my mom. My mom does that
Yeah,
to strangers.
it's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
it's very it's actually proven to build your resiliency,
Mm.
especially those of us who have had trauma at a very young age. And so
Mm.
now I'm learning all these things about trauma informed care and all this great stuff. And I'm like, that's what I do. That's what I've done.
You
That's
intuitively do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
intuitively I've
Mm.
been doing those things. And so those are the things that have helped me too. I tell people one of the heart-wrenching thing about pandemic is that it's isolated us, and you cannot heal
Right.
in isolation.
Yeah.
We need each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so even though, in relationships, we become broken. That's exactly where the healing is going to take place, is in
Mm,
relationships, you
mm,
know, which
yeah,
is why refuge is the heart of our church.
yeah,
You know, it's really bringing people into community, and they come because they are choosing to heal. You know, it's their choice. No one's making them. You're not preaching at them. It's not like that. They actually are choosing to heal in community, and it's some good heart work happens at Refuge,
yeah.
and yeah, I love
That
being a part of it.
that's a good segue, Cheryl. Could you share a little bit about like the history of Refuge and
Sure,
maybe like and your involvement in it?
sure. I love Refuge, so you'll have to cut me off. I can talk about Refuge forever.
Okay.
So Refuge is a ministry at our church where it really is healing in community. And we do that very specifically where through October to February, you decide, you pick a curriculum, a behavior that maybe you want addressed. For instance, we have grief share, we have mending the soul, which talks about abuses. We have an anxiety group. We have a group for Genesis process, and that's really about looking at addictive behaviors. We have boundaries. So there's a list of curriculums, and you say, oh, you know, this looks like it's something that I would want to do. You come to the open house. You get to meet other people who have gone through the curriculum. You get to meet facilitators. You get to meet me. You know, we talk about it, answer your questions, and then once you sign up, you are in your group for the duration of that time. So most groups go for about 10 to 15 weeks. It just depends on the curriculum.
Yeah.
And in those 10 to 15 weeks, you're meeting weekly. We believe that we've created safe spaces. We have very clear expectations. Um, Once the group is closed, it's closed. So people aren't coming in and out, you know. So we set a deadline of, you know, when you can join. And then those people, usually it's no more than 6 to 8 people, um, journey together.
Mm.
And it is so helpful, Savan. I have just heard story after story, testimony after testimony of how people have been wanting to figure some things out, but they feel the shame of it. They feel
Mm.
alone.
Yeah.
They don't have a place where they can come and be themselves and, you know, be authentic and vulnerable.
Mm.
And so Refuge invites people to come together and to heal together. And so, yeah, I love it. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have experience in different types of ministry and as a youth pastor,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, um, uh, with refuge or just as a church, your own church experience, can
Hmm.
you say a little bit about how you've seen churches minister to people who struggle
Yeah.
with relationship, like you said, broken relationship or even trauma and mental
Hmm.
illness?
Yeah. My experience has been that we have missed the mark um, quite a bit. And so in Atlanta, that's where I was youth pastor. And I think back to some stuff and I just want to go back and apologize to several kids and students and families. Um, the ignorance of it, uh, not being trauma informed,
Mm,
uh, the way we have interpreted the word and not really making it relational. Um, yeah, we've missed it. That's been my experience. However, once I would say maybe those latter years of being in Atlanta, I joined this group of women through my chaplaincy program, and things started to change.
mm,
And as a chaplain, many people don't recognize this, but we really practice the presence of being with someone.
mm,
So it's presence. It's not about me praying for you, me giving you your last, sacraments, it's not that. I mean, those are pieces of it,
Mm,
but it's really about being present. And what does that look like? And that just kind of changed me and made me um, love people the way God loves people and to see people the way God sees them. I was
mm,
dealing a lot with, for whatever reason, people who were attempting suicide, and then also people who had heart challenges and lung challenges, but were doing things to not help. Like this man was dying. He was
mm,
literally dying. He has an oxygen tank. And so he'd be like, come on, chap, let's go outside for a walk. And I'm like, okay. And we go
mhm.
outside for a walk and he wants to smoke.
He's gonna
And I'm
light
like,
up with his oxygen tank.
and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
are you kidding me?
Mm,
But in that moment, how can I show them the light?
mm,
How can I be the salt on the earth? And I tell you, it grew me up.
mm,
I started to really grow in the word and what it looks like to be Jesus's hands and feet on this earth.
mm.
And so it was there where things kind of changed. And I loved that. And I was like, okay,
Mm.
this is the real gospel. And then when I came to
Actually
Portland,
ministering to people. It'll
yeah,
it'll it'll
yeah,
you'll quickly have to adjust.
quickly,
You get real with people.
quickly,
Yes.
quickly. And then when I came to Atlanta, Portland, and found Refuge, same thing. Refuge just was, Refuge was just an eye opener. I come from abuse, um, and the things that I was told, even just, forgiveness on what that looks like and how, we just had it wrong where I came from. And at Refuge, it's just been presented in a very healthy and trauma informed way.
Mm,
Yes, you should forgive, right? You should forgive your abuser. Yes, but that doesn't look like it doesn't look like the same way for everyone.
mm,
So some people will get back into relationship, but a lot won't. And so I was told that I had to be around my father and things that I had. And I was like, are you kidding me? The way he treated me and the things he did?
mm,
Is that what God is saying? Then I don't want to be a part of this. I just didn't believe, something in me was like, that doesn't sound right.
mm,
But I didn't have the theology
mm.
and the way to explain it, the knowledge and the intellect to explain it and to debate those who were
That's
telling me,
uh like
you know,
I'm getting goosebumps of like
yeah,
sadness because like
yeah,
not being able to have to defend theologically or come up with a reason uh to explain just your innate need for protection and right for
yeah,
protection and dignity. You have to come
yeah,
up with some like uh, rationale for it to give yourself permission for that and
yeah,
advocate for yourself as a victim. It, uh,
yeah,
yes, let's do
yeah.
better.
Yeah.
So
And so
Cheryl,
I believe we're doing better.
yeah,
I believe I'm part of
mm,
a ministry that wants to do better. We miss it. We still miss it, but we're quick to repent.
mm,
Quick to forgive and quick to offer grace. You
mm,
know.
yeah.
So
What's you described the presence that you learned as a
mhm,
chaplain. What's
yeah,
one thing that you would say to a youth pastor or a leader or a younger you about what does it mean to be trauma informed? Because you hear that phrase, but
yeah,
in terms of like a church setting in ministry, what does it
yeah,
mean? Like, what are you passionate about sharing about like trauma,
yeah.
being trauma informed?
I am passionate about us treating every single person with love, like for real. Not if you look the way I look, if we're the same color, if we're the same this or that, and if we don't, if we believe the same thing. I want us to really, when someone walks in the door or we're around people, that we can offer the love of Christ and believe that God really created all of us in his image,
Mm,
not the
mm,
ones who accept it. See, we have this false belief that it's all about what I have accepted and how I'm living. And No, God created all of us and he loves all of us
Mm,
on our worst and our best days, the same way. He doesn't, it's
mm,
just a beautiful thing, right? There's nothing that I can absolutely do to earn his love.
mm,
And then on the flip side, there's nothing that I can do to take it away, right? To push it away. And
mm,
it's a beautiful thing. And if we would love people that way, um, yeah, that would be a good start. And a good start is speaking to everyone. Oh my
mm,
goodness. Can you just say hello and be kind to people,
mm,
and see them
mm,
houseless? It doesn't matter. Can we just speak to people? You know?
mm,
Um, yeah, it troubles me that we won't speak to people. That's
mm,
one of my big things. That can
mhm.
you speak to people? I mean, like, what is happening?
Yeah. I loved
um,
one of your emails that you sent me. I liked your hashtag. I think it said connect people to people
yeah,
and hashtag connect people to God.
yes. I
And
am the
and
connector.
we
Yeah,
like we're kindred spirits because
yeah,
that's love God, love people,
yeah,
and help people do the same. That's my thing that
yeah,
I'm trying. Um, it's it's so hard, Cheryl. Um, lately, I don't want to get too political, but I got to say this
yeah,
because it's a contrast with what you just said.
yeah.
Is uh, whether it's social media or the news or there's just this picture of Christians that we're not about loving people. We're about finding differences and fighting
Mm,
for like pointing out what's wrong with people, um, and not loving our enemies, but like fighting. Um, and
mhm.
I understand. I think folks that might that I have in mind that take that
Mhm.
approach, I'm sure they're thinking they're fighting for freedom and rights and things like that.
Yeah,
Um, but loving anyone who enters the door of your church and accepting them,
yeah,
um, and that that's that's my hope for the church. That's my hope for anyone who's struggling inside and maybe terrified of going to church. Um, Terrified of being rejected and hurt by other people. Um,
yeah,
that's why that's a great. I love the name of the ministry.
yeah,
That it's a refuge.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's a
for
beautiful
people.
thing. And we're really honest with people. It's a church. So, yeah, we are going to pray. We are going to pray. And
Mm,
all of our curriculum um, is biblically based, all of it.
mm,
And so I've been told, I've never been to AA, but I've been told by someone who is at AA right now, says Refuge is the best world of theology and psychology and all those things in between. They're getting 12 steps, they're getting theology, they're getting, all these things. And I was like, okay. And he was like, yeah, this is the best.
mm,
This is what I needed,
mm,
So
mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a gateway to Jesus. Refuge is a gateway to Jesus
Mm,
at
mm,
Imago. So I'm really, really super, super honored um, and just proud to be a part of it. Yeah.
yeah. Awesome. Now, the I uh, recommend Refuge to counseling clients. You don't have to be a member of Imago Dei Church to attend Refuge uh,
You do
classes or
not.
groups.
Absolutely correct. You do not. You simply and we need to do a better job of promoting refuge in that way. And so we actually are thinking about this summer because it starts in the fall. Um, we're getting ready to end up our last season. It ends in about 2 weeks. But yeah, we need to promote it so that people who don't go to our church understand that it's for everyone. It's for our community
Mm.
And yeah, you don't have to be affiliated to anybody's church. We want
Yeah.
you to come.
Yeah. So
So,
many people have struggled this last year with
oh
isolation,
man.
with just grief of like life blowing up for them,
Yeah.
um, or just shame at struggling
Yeah.
uh, with things, even if they didn't lose their job, like just struggling with work from home, with trying to teach their kids, keep
Yeah.
their kids going
Yeah.
with school. So like I didn't remember that you had an anxiety group. I knew about the boundaries group, so
Hmm.
that's great. Like so many uh, uh, struggle struggle with anxiety and depression, and
Yeah.
one of the cures, it's not necessarily the cure for depression,
Hmm.
but one of the cures for loneliness and isolation is connecting with people.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's neat that it it's it's a challenge, but you're calling to people like, we're gonna stick through this season or this class, this group, um, and like these are your people for
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
this learning,
Yeah.
this topic.
And it's
Um,
amazing how it has transformed people, because literally most of them are strangers to each other. You know,
mhm,
we try our best, really not to let siblings and relatives take classes together. It has just been in our, I don't know, our experience that usually when you have your bestie or your relative or someone, you have somebody there, right, who has your back, but nobody else in that group does. And so it's kind of a disadvantage to the others. And then also, if you really want to get vulnerable, you may not. You may hold something because you look across the room and, like, oh, I forgot you were here.
mm.
Yeah, no, I don't want to say that. So
Yeah,
so literally, you're with strangers and there's a bond though that
yeah,
happens,
yeah.
you know.
The groups are not like same gender, or
Um,
are there groups that are like
w-
women only or
so
men
we
only?
have both. We have women only, men only, and then we have co-ed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Depending
yeah.
on the topic or
Depending on the topic, all of the sexual wholeness, sexual abuse, all of those are definitely by gender.
mm,
Grief is co-ed. Um, I think anxiety is co-ed. Yeah. So we have several. We did Why Emotions Matter this season, and we did it by gender, and it worked out really well. So I
huh,
think we'll keep it like that. We were trying to decide if that was going to be a co-ed group, so it's
mm, mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. Is that based on the book?
it
Why
is,
emotions?
yeah, by
Oh,
John and
okay.
Tristan Collins, right? I think the
Yeah,
last name is Collins. Yeah, they
yeah.
used to go to our church.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I interviewed Tristan about her book, and so she'll be on the podcast
Oh,
as well.
nice. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness, we love
yeah,
that book. It's very
yeah.
practical.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's uh, it's a little different from a lot of books on emotions in that it
Hmm.
talks about how the differences with emotions affect marriage.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
I love their stories, and
Yeah.
so um, Cheryl, you and your husband have an amazing story.
Mhm.
um, and I'm so glad that you um, came on the show today to share it. As we wind down our time today, um, uh, is there anything that you'd like to add um, to encourage listeners, whether it's based on what we've already talked about or anything else?
I want everyone out there listening to know that they are not alone. And that can, as soon as I said it, someone may be thinking, well, you don't know. You don't know this about me. You don't know this and this. You are not alone. And my prayer and my hope is that um, you will feel the presence of people today. And I don't know how God's going to do that in your life, but that's my prayer. I I don't want you to think another day that you are alone. You are not alone. You are not alone. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Cheryl Baker,
Thank
for
you,
being on the
sir.
podcast. I'll be putting information about Refuge groups
Nice.
and Imago Dei
Yeah.
Church in the show
Yeah.
notes, and uh, I I um, I am curious about uh, the topics of some of the refuge groups about like mending the soul or
Mhm.
Genesis process. So I hope we might have you back to talk a little bit more about like those topics or and healing from trauma.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure. I would
yeah,
love to do that. I would
yeah.
love to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if anyone is looking for a trauma informed care facilitator for workshopping, please contact me. I want to get into the church community, but I also do it for a living outside of that. So I was trained by Trauma Informed Oregon, and I'm part of that cohort. And so you can find me on their website or my own.
Oh,
So
great.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll include the links for that
Okay,
for folks to contact you there too.
good stuff.
All right.